Yo, what's good, y'all? We back in here with another video. And like I said in my lottery reaction video, if you didn't see that, I basically said I was going to do a mock draft for the first 10 picks in this year's class when the lottery was revealed. And here we go. Let's get into it now because this video might be a little bit longer than a usual video that I would do. So kicking it off with the Orlando Magic. #1 pick in the draft. I already voiced my opinion on this a long time ago, but the Magic should take Gonzaga big man Chet Holmgren and not look back at all, in my opinion. I think pairing him with Jalen Suggs back together, they were teammates in high school, it would be a huge plus. They got chemistry. I also really like the dynamic of him and Wendell Carter along with Franz Wagner in the front court. A lot of size in that front court. And if you could put Chet at the 4, I think Chet would fit pretty well at the 4, even though he's like 7'2". I think he'd fit pretty well. Wendell Carter's been playing the 5 pretty well. Last season he did a pretty good job, or if you want to say this season, I guess. But Franz Wagner also, another guy, had a great rookie season. That front court I think would make them a pretty sizable team with lots of mobility in their lineup. And then obviously Chet offensively is a unicorn with his skill set, so it's an easy no-brainer for me. If I'm the Magic, I'm taking Chet Holmgren with the #1 overall pick in this year's class. Now on to the #2 pick, held by the Oklahoma City Thunder. I really like Jabari Smith for them. I think he would fit well with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Josh Giddey with their playmaking abilities. He's also versatile. You can put him at the 4. That's his primary position. I think in the NBA he can play some 3. A little bit of 3. It depends on the lineups that are out there for both teams. And a little bit of 5 as well, depending, like I said before, on the lineups that are out there for both squads. He's a knockdown shooter for his position. Great mid-range game. Can put the ball on the floor. Does need to work on posting up, like back to the basket. But he can like face you up and shoot right over you because he is that skilled. So I like the potential he has. He also has some solid defensive potential on the ball. As a perimeter defender, not that bad. As a paint defender, can get a little bit better. Does average a decent amount of blocks. He did last year in college. A pretty decent amount, but he can get better on that end. I don't know if he'll ever be a great paint defender because he's more, when I look at him, he's got a Jaren Jackson game on the offensive end, but on the defensive end is not really a guy I would think of as like a rim protector on an elite scale, but we'll see. Maybe he can develop into that one day, and then next thing you know, I'm wrong. But if I'm OKC, I go with Jabari Smith. And I wouldn't really get on them if they picked Banchero with the 2nd overall pick either, but I think Jabari Smith fits a little bit better just because of his 3-point abilities on this team. Now, with the Houston Rockets, obviously, that would mean they would choose Paolo Banchero with the 3rd overall pick. And Houston really has a lot of ways that they can go about this because they kind of have like a logjam at the 5 spot with Christian Wood and Sengun, their rookie from this year, who played pretty solid in the minutes he got. They got a little logjam there, and if you draft Banchero, who in Duke was the 4 or 5, whenever you wanted to put him in whatever lineup, if you want to put him at the 4 in Houston, then you can have him play the 4 and then have Christian Wood start next to him, which would be the more simple option. But then you can also just have him play the 4 next to Sengun, and that can work too. And you can trade Christian Wood and get something for him. You're not going to get a lot for him, but you'll get something. But Banchero is a great pick for the 3rd overall pick with the way he can affect the game offensively, post-up game, footwork. His mid-range game is pretty elite at the college level. Even though his 3-point shot can improve, I think it will over time. We saw him knock down a lot of 3s in March, in big moments especially. And that's one thing that I love about Paolo Banchero is how good of a big game player he is. Never shied away from the moment. He's always going to do whatever it takes for his team to win. Might not be the best defender, but I just love that quality about him. So that's why he is still a top 3 pick, and that's why if I'm Houston and he's available on the board, you have to draft him with a 3rd overall pick. Now with the 4th pick, the Sacramento Kings, it's kind of like a blessing and a curse. Yeah, it's great that they got a top 4 pick for their franchise, but at the same time, it would have been way better if they had like the 3rd overall pick instead of the 4th, because now that all these guys are gone, it kind of starts to deteriorate a little bit. You got the Sacramento Kings. I'm kind of confused for them because they don't need another power forward. So basically that would take Keegan Murray off the board because they already have Domantas Sabonis. But then they also drafted a guard last year in Davion Mitchell who showed some promise, especially towards the end of the year when De'Aaron Fox was out. And then, you also take into the fact that they traded a good young point/2 guard in Tyrese Haliburton, a combo guard, in the Sabonis deal. But then I think about this too. I can't see a world where Jaden Ivey falls out of the top 4. Maybe if it's the Shaedon Sharpe, maybe, but I don't really know. I mean, I saw some mock drafts saying Keegan Murray goes 4, but to Sacramento, I can't see it. So Jaden Ivey at 4, I guess, but I'd have to assume that if they did choose him, that either means Davion Mitchell's available on the trade block or he just goes back to the bench role. But either way, they're probably going to get criticized just because of the fact that they would be picking another guard after trading a very good young guard literally a few months ago and drafting one last summer. But anyways, I think Kings select Ivey at 4 just because it'd be like a best talent available type of selection. Now at the 5th pick for the Pistons, this was another tough one because this is where the draft starts to get a little dicey after the top 4, because this draft, by many accounts, a lot of people have said this draft is a top 4 draft, and then everybody else you kind of have to find and hope that they turn out to be a really good player. And I kind of could see why people say that, because when you look here, the Detroit Pistons, they're one of these teams that I can see taking some risk. And I think, I can see them taking another guard, which would be Shaedon Sharpe out of Kentucky. And yeah, he never played a game for them, but his potential is, I think, just as high as anyone's in the class. If he would have played a collegiate season, who knows? Maybe he's a top 3 pick because he was ranked the number 1 player in the country in his class, but he then reclassified and then went to Kentucky and never played. So I'd really want to see how it'd work for him in the NBA. He had one of the highest, I think he had the highest vertical jump ever. So he's got a lot, statistics and, skill. Like when you watch the tape, you can see he's got some talent in him. But the thing is, we've never seen him play on even a collegiate level. So it'd be a risk taking him, but I think the Pistons would take him, and I think it'd be a good idea for them because I think him and Cade in the backcourt could do some damage. And I think them passing on Keegan Murray will be okay because they like Marvin Bagley, and I like Marvin Bagley on Detroit. So I could see him getting a more significant role next season for that team. So what's really the need for Keegan Murray? Then I think Killian Hayes, yeah, you did draft him in 2020, and he's still only 20 years old, and he's going into his 3rd year, but hasn't really shown you a lot of signs of life. Yeah, he has a couple good games here and there, occasional moments here and there, but I would think I would rather bet on Sharpe's potential than Killian Hayes' potential, but that's just me. But I got the Pistons taking Sharpe at 5. Now with the 6th pick, which is held by the Indiana Pacers, who are a weird team because they don't really have anything that I can say can be special outside of like Tyrese Haliburton, who I think is going to get better as time goes on and can be that guy. He's already shown a lot this past season, if you want to say for them, because they're not in the postseason. He showed what he can do. He is a great floor general out there, can pass like better than majority of guards in the league, can score. So I like Tyrese Haliburton a lot. But Indiana's a team that needs some front court guys. I can't really even name you their front court guys like that outside of Miles Turner, who knows if he's even on the team next season. Then you look at the power forward spot. They traded Sabonis. They don't really have a power forward like that. So I got the Indiana Pacers taking Keegan Murray out of Iowa to be the new power forward of the future for the Indiana Pacers. When you look at his stats, he was one of the nation's leading scorer. I think he was the leading scorer at 23.5 points per game this past season. Shot the ball really well, 55%, nearly 40% from deep. So he's virtually a threat from anywhere on the floor, and he can be even more dynamic when you got a point guard like Haliburton who got eyes in the back of his head. You run a pick and pop, you run a pick and roll, you do a lot of things with that combo, and I can see it working. Now for Keegan Murray's like ceiling, do I see him as like the face of the franchise kind of guy? No, not really. I see him more as like a piece of a puzzle, and that's fine. You're not when you draft 6th overall, I don't think a lot of the time you get a guy that's the face of the franchise. That doesn't just happen a lot. So it's fine if he's a piece to the puzzle. And who knows, maybe I end up being wrong. Maybe he ends up being a superstar player one day. But Keegan Murray to Indiana makes more sense than it would for like the Pistons or the Kings. I think it fits well. I would like to see him and Halliburton, that dynamic. So Keegan Murray to Indiana. Now at the 7th spot, this one's a little weird for me because the Blazers, to be honest, I think they should move their pick because they didn't go anywhere. They literally moved down. And they were supposed, if they wanted to make a big time splash in this draft, they had to move up. I think they had to go into the top 3 if they wanted to make some noise. But with them being in the 7th spot, I don't really see much they can do with the 7th spot. There's not a lot of guys left on the board that are like, that give me that wow factor. But if I had to say it, if they had to choose and they don't move the pick, I think AJ Griffin is the guy they take. Who, even though I had his draft stock high at one point during the college season, I think it dropped for me compared to when I first talked about him because, yeah, still a great 3-point shooter, shot a high percentage, has an NBA ready body, but he still has a lot to get better at when it comes to creating his own shot because his handle is really suspect, and we saw that in a lot of high pressure moments in March Madness when they gave him the ball and he had to create because shot clock was winding down or any type of situation where he just had to do something. Couldn't really do it. Couldn't create any significant separation, and he can't just do that yet. He just can't do it yet. But he does have athleticism. He got that NBA ready body. He's just kind of got raw skill. And if he can get those skills evened out and get it, better and better as the years go on, he can be a pretty good player in my opinion because he has potential. But I see AJ Griffin more as like a guy that if he reaches his ceiling, it's going to take about 3, 4, 5 years for him to become that guy. Now with the 8th pick in this year's draft, New Orleans got this pick selecting Arizona guard Ben Mathurin, who in my opinion has an NBA game. I really like Mathurin a lot. Has great athleticism for his position. Shot making is one of the best in this class. Shot 37% from 3, but he took a lot of difficult shots and he shot fairly well for a guy that took some difficult shots. And he has the potential to shoot even higher because of the fact that he took those shots. So I think he'd fit really well with Ingram, Zion. I like Herb Jones. He showed me a lot. Great defensive player. If his offensive game can get a little bit better, his ceiling rises. The Pelicans showed me a lot in the playoffs. I like what they got going on. If they were to select Mathurin, probably would come off the bench. But hey, not every lottery pick just goes out there and starts. I think he can fit well with this team. And New Orleans would probably be the best fit for him, in my opinion at least. Now at the 9th spot, I got the Spurs taking Baylor forward Jeremy Sochan, who won the Big 12 Sixth Man of the Year. And he just fits what the Spurs need right now. They already got their franchise point guard in DeJounte Murray, first-time All-Star this year. They have their small forward / power forward and Keldon Johnson, but I think I view him more as a 3. I think Sochan fits right in that power forward spot for San Antonio. I wouldn't expect him to start right away because Greg Popovich has this tendency. He doesn't really start unless you're drafting him like top 3. If the Spurs are drafting like in that top 5 range, a lot of the time you're not starting like that. So he'd probably come off the bench for this team, but he has the potential to be an impact player for a Spurs team that wasn't really that far off from making the playoffs this season. So I would like that pick for them. I wouldn't really complain if I was a Spurs fan because, like I said before, this draft really starts to get watered down after like the 5th pick. Now with the last pick, the 10th overall pick in the draft, the Washington Wizards would select Johnny Davis out of Wisconsin, who has high scoring potential, knock down lots of jumpers, mid-range, beyond the arc, tough shot making for the Badgers this season. Also has really solid defensive potential as well at his 6'5" frame, has long wingspan. The only couple negatives probably is the fact that he's not the most athletic wing, but with his shooting ability and defensive potential, which is what a lot of NBA teams need, not even a lot, every NBA team needs, he has the chance to make an immediate impact for whatever team chooses him, which in this case would be the Washington Wizards. Anyways, that's gonna do it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Link will be down in the description below. If you want to see what I had to say about the lottery and my initial reaction, you can go check that out. The link will also be in the bio. This has been a checkup where we talk hoops and hoops only, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.